Hey, this is Ulrich Carlson, CRM Chat Guy, and this video is to introduce the Power Query Builder along with some of the new features that Mohammed Rashid and I have recently introduced in the tool. So we'll go through the whole tool on how to use it to quickly create a Power BI data model from Dynamics 365 Customer Engagement. I already have the XrmToolBox open and search for the Power Query Builder tool here, so I'll go ahead and open it. And first off, of course, I'll load all the entities from Dynamics 365 into the system. And some of the new features here means that we now can generate the service URL separately. And we don't only have one service URL, we actually have two service URLs that we need to work with. So we're going to have the Dynamics 365 Customer Engagement Base URL as well as the service root URL here. So I'll go ahead and create those queries first inside Power BI so we can use them for later when we make the actual queries. So I'll go ahead and copy the base URL from here. And in Power BI, I'll click on Edit Queries. And here we have the Power Query Editor. We'll click on New Source and create a blank query. And I'll cut and paste the service URL here, or actually just the standard Dynamics 365 URL here. And I'll name it Den 365 Customer Engagement Base URL. There we go. And I'll go back to the tool and I'll take the service root URL as usual from the you might have done in the previous version of this tool, and we'll actually go ahead and create a similar item, a similar query, blank query here, and we'll cut and paste the information and call this the service root URL. There we go, service root URL. And you can actually see that this is actually a formula that takes the base URL and appends the API data and the version number of the data type that's actually being used in this context here. So that means whenever you need to come back and just change the URL from a sandbox to a production environment or something else, all you need to do is just change this one variable here. And if you happen to update the system, you can just update the version number here in the service root URL item. All right, let's get some data into the system. So I'll go ahead and go back to my select table and columns, and I'll search for an opportunity that I'm interested in. And just as an update, you can actually now search for both the display name as well as the logical name for the various incidents. So I'll go ahead and select opportunities and load all the attributes from the opportunity entity, all the display fields, all the fields, along with all the views that are available so I can use them in my query. So here I have all the fields and all the views, and just to speed things up a little bit, I can actually select a view. Here I'll use my Open Opportunities Power Query Builder, and it'll automatically bring in all the fields here from this specific view. And I can come in here and, similar to the entities, I can search for both the display name as well as the logical name. In this case though, I'll actually just find the owner field, add the owner to the view here. So I have all these details. And we have a mixed bag of fields here. We have some lookup fields, we have some pick lists, or option sets, status fields, etc. So I'll go ahead and update the fetch XML. And notice here I now have a list of all the different fields from my query, including multiple versions of the same type. Potential customer here is listed 3 times because I can get the customer ID, which is the unique ID of the potential customer. I can also see the type is the potential customer, an account or contact, and then of course the name of the potential customers. This is actually repeated for the status fields and the pick list, for example, where I have rating and rating opportunity rating code, which just contains the actual value. So what I'll do here is I'll actually just delete the status code field. I'm not really interested in that. So I'll select it and click on remove. And the opportunity ID there, that was added automatically because you always want the unique identifier for the table that you are retrieving. I'll actually just move that to the top here. And notice here, over here, I have a filter on the opportunities that basically selects all the active opportunities. I'll leave that in for now. And I have a couple additional options here, add record URL and use all attributes. I will select the add record URL. I'll get back to the use all attributes and what that does. So now that I've made some of my modifications here, I can go ahead and click on generate fetch XML, and it'll basically generate the whole fetch for me. And the Power Query code, or the M code, it's also called, that I can use inside Power BI. So I'll basically just cut and paste this whole selection here. I hit Control A on the keyboard to do that selection. And I'll back in Power BI in the Power Query editor. I'll create another blank query. And this time I'll click on Advanced Editor and basically cut and paste the whole text that I just had here. And click Done. And what happens now, and I'll actually just refresh here so we get the latest data. So what happened now was that we actually got all the fields imported from that view. Notice how opportunity ID come first. That was one of the changes I made in the system. I have my topic. Everything has been renamed to the display names. I have my potential customer, the ID. I have the potential customer type as an account or contact. And I have the name of the potential customer too. Estimated close date here has been formatted as in date format. Estimated revenue is in a number format. A contact. I have both the contact ID as well as the contact name, probability, rating. So notice here for the rating, I have the rating, opportunity rating code, 2211, etc., which is the value that's actually stored in the database. But since we're using the fetch, I also have the rating here, warm, warm, hot, hot, etc. So I don't have to do any of the work in replacing the option set values with the actual labels. Status reasons here, I only have the in progress because in my query, I actually removed the status reason value field that basically just displayed the value. And the same thing for owner ID. I have the unique ID and I have the type, so I can see if that's a system user or a team, as well as the name of the owner. Now, at the end here, I have a field called link. The link was actually generated towards the end, and it's using that new Dynamics 365 base URL to insert the link to that specific record inside Dynamics. So in this case here, let me just rename query 1 here to opportunity. And I'll go ahead and say close and apply. So now I'm actually just querying all the data into my Power BI desktop, and I can start making some reports. All right, now I have all the data in, and what I can do is I can actually create a table of records here. So I will bring in the topic of the opportunities, and I'll go ahead and bring in the link too. Now, one change I have to make here on the link record is on data modeling up here. I have to change the category to a web URL. So now this actually becomes a URL, and I can make that look a little nicer here under the formatting options and values. I can change that to a specific icon. So now that I'm drilling through or looking at all these different opportunities, I automatically have a link right here that takes me to that specific opportunity record inside of Dynamics 365. And that's all being generated automatically in the system. You don't have to create the formulas, etc., to create that kind of links. That's been taken care of in the Power Query editor. Let me just open up the Power Query editor again and look at the opportunity. So when you check that box, add link to record, it's actually adding this step here, and you can see exactly what it does. Is that it takes the Dynamics 365 Customer Engagement Base URL and appends the information, including the entity information, and inserts the ID for that record. So you have that dynamic link that you can just click on and get to that specific record inside Dynamics 365. Now, if you have used this tool in the past, I've worked with Power Query and Dynamics 365 in the past too, you may notice some differences here, some added steps under applied steps here that weren't present previously. For example, this result item. And that's because we have actually built in some logic into the model. So if this table actually turns up empty, you would actually get an error. In your Power BI model, this table wouldn't work if you actually ended up having no records, or you feel it had no records, which would break all the other visuals, etc., that are related to this individual table. So in case we actually have an opportunity here with no records, and what I'll do is I'll come in and find the filter, and I'll just go ahead and change the filter to state code 5. That code doesn't exist, so I'll be absolutely sure that we're not retrieving any records in doing this. So I'll now try and retrieve the record using that filter. So notice here we have the opportunity ID, topic, potential customer code, etc. Everything looks as it should, except this table is just simply empty, but we're not getting any errors. If we didn't have that if statement inside the Power Query, what it would have looked like is that it would actually look like this. We would be getting an error on one of the steps and we wouldn't be able to see it. So using this results table here and some if statement inside the Power Query, we can actually dynamically get a correct result in the Power Query and avoid those errors. Makes it easier when you are moving one data model from one solution to the next, that you know your table's not going to receive error just in case there is no data in some of those tables. All right, the last step that I discussed here would be on the select attributes or use the all attributes feature. So what I'll go ahead here, I'll generate the fetch XML again, and this time I'll use the use all attributes feature. And I'll click on generate fetch XML. And we can see here the main difference is that in the fetch section here, up here, instead of listing each field individually, it's using the all attributes feature. So, or using the all attributes instead of each individual field. So I'll go ahead and copy and paste this. I'll copy it, and then I'll paste it here in a new blank query. Say done. And we'll call this one opportunity all attributes. There we go. So this looks, the end result looks identical to querying each individual field. The main difference is on this converted to table step over here. If I open that, well, actually, it wasn't the converted to table step, it was the expanded column step that I was looking for. On the expanded column step, that is actually the step that takes all the queried information and breaks it into the different columns of fields inside Power BI. And in this selection here, in this box, you usually only have all the fields that are specified in your fetch XML query. But if you use the all attributes query, you can actually come back and select additional fields, etc. So if you did forget anything and you don't want to redo your whole model, you just want to come back in and find a couple of fields, like a description field, and add that to your data model, you can actually come in here and make some updates, make some changes. All of that information is being retrieved. Using all attributes might not be as efficient as just specifying the individual field and getting those through the fetch. So use with care. Smaller data sets really doesn't make much of a difference, but with larger data sets that potentially could make a difference. So definitely do your own due diligence on which one you want to use. By default, we specify each individual field unless you hit a certain number of fields. So if you have a lot of fields in there, it switches to all attributes because there's a maximum field limitation in the fetch XML. It does that, then we automatically switch to using the all attributes instead, but you can also have that as a setting and just use the all attributes. All right, so those were the new features and an intro on how to use the Power Query Builder for the XrmToolBox to quickly get your information from Dynamics 365 into Power BI and start working with them, immediately creating those links to the individual record. And start doing some more information or start doing some more visualizations with the data itself. I hope you enjoyed it. If you have any ideas, comments, feedback, etc., please leave some comments on my blog on XrmChartGuy. And again, a big thank you to Mohammed, who's the developer on this. Thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed it.